Hi students, welcome to our second full week of class. So what I'll be doing is for the weeks going forward is I'm going to record a video announcement that just gives you a very brief overview of what you can sort of look forward to during this week. So I didn't do one for the first week of class because I had a welcome video, so that sort of covered everything for our first week. So now moving forward, I'll be doing, again, sort of these 5 to 6 minute videos. I just want to give you a sense of what we have going on this week, things to look for, things that are coming up, that kind of information. So the week 2 module is again set up exactly the same way as our week 1 module. And week 2 is technically a slightly shorter week because we had the Memorial Day weekend holiday. So keeping that in mind, we've got 2 topics that we're going to be discussing this week. We're going to be talking about DNA and we're going to be talking about protein synthesis. So these are 2 relatively large topics. And there is not too much information here, but it's critically important information. So before we can understand how we pass our traits on from one generation to the next, we have to understand the mechanism, how that happens, right? We have to understand that process. And we started with cells because in order to understand DNA and in order to understand protein synthesis, we had to understand the mechanism behind that. We had to understand all the pieces that have to fit together in order to create these proteins and to visibly see these traits. So we're sort of building knowledge gradually until we can get to the point where we can start discussing inheritance, if you will. So again, you'll be talking about DNA and protein synthesis this week. And then as far as the assignments go, same as you had last week. You're going to do adaptive practice modules. There's only 3 this time instead of 4 because, again, it's a shorter week. So I'm just going to do the 3. I'd like you to review DNA. I'd like you to review what we're going to call the genetic code, which is essentially the letters of A's, C's, T's, and G's that are the bases in our DNA and what those turn into and what they signify. And then the last one is about protein synthesis. You'll also have your discussion question this week as well as your check-in on Socrative. So going back real quick to the adaptive practice assignments, you'll notice that when you go to your dashboard, you'll see that we have those which, again, are due for Module 1, which are still going to show here, and then the 3 that I've given you for Module 2. All of your completed assignments are going to show up under this tab here. So anything that you've finished, you'll find here, and anything that you still have to do will be on this tab. And again, I haven't completed all this assignments. This is just sort of a mock student account that I have, so you can see what your end kind of it looks like, so that you can sort of see the what you have coming up. Let's see, the only other thing that I wanted to quickly mention is if for some reason any of you have not yet signed up for CK12 for the adaptive practice modules, those are right here. The instructions on how to do that is right here. It's very, very simple. You go, you create a class, you create an account, you join my class, and then you'll have access to those assignments. So it doesn't take very long at all. The other thing that I really quickly wanted to mention to you, oops, I just realized I'm under the wrong, not that it particularly matters. The other thing I briefly wanted to mention was the Socrative surveys. So the Socrative surveys, once again, please remember that you're going to use your Harper name to sign into those. It appears that at least half the class that I've seen so far has been able to successfully get onto Socrative to take those surveys. They're very quick. They're only a couple questions. It's typically about things that you've learned or questions that I'm going to ask you about maybe the course. Did you find all the materials? I always leave room for questions. Do you have questions? I will answer those questions each week. So anything you post in there that's a general question about the course or the content, I'm going to answer those questions either in the video the following week. So depending on how many questions I have, if it's only a few, I'll answer those in the video the following week. I'll also be putting these on the discussion board. So there will be a new forum here that'll say weekly Socrative questions. And that's where I'm going to put the answers to those. If you have a question that is something a little bit more individual. So say you've got, you have a conflict with a schedule, or you have a very, very specific question that might not necessarily apply to the rest of the class. You can go ahead and leave it there in Socrative, but I also would recommend that you actually email that to me. You're going to get a much quicker response if you send me a direct email with your questions versus posting them on Socrative. Socrative is more or less kind of more geared towards sort of general questions that might be about, oh, I was having trouble with the cell cycle. Could you give me more resources for that? Or things like that. If it's a very specific question to you and your circumstances, I actually recommend an email versus talking to me on Socrative, simply because with an email, I can get back to you and respond very quickly. I'm not checking the Socrative survey very often. I check it a couple times a week at best. So if it's something that's sort of critically important, please email me because I can get back to you a lot faster. I will try to directly respond to anyone who posts something there that's, again, a specific question to you and your circumstance. I'll reach out to you via email to get back to you. But again, you're going to get better feedback from me if you go ahead and email me directly. So that's it, I think, for this week, kind of short and simple. I will be giving you a little bit more information next week, so in week 3, about that little end of the class project that you have to do. So here on Learning Modules, course materials, you have this thing called the media project. Again, it's not difficult. It's something that's fairly easy to do. It's just sort of an overall, this is what I learned in class kind of a project. We're going to be using a website called ThingLink to create these, and with ThingLink, I have to individually send out emails inviting you to join. Same thing, you just sign up for an account. It's very simple to do. So I will probably be sending out those emails in week 3. So in week 3, we'll be talking a little bit more about this project. Again, it doesn't take a lot to do. It's at the end of our class together, and it's just sort of a summary to show me kind of what you know and what you've learned this semester. So we'll leave it at that. Once again, if you all have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I hope you all had a nice long holiday weekend, and I'll talk to you again next week. Thanks, everyone.